Hello everyone and welcome back to Push the Point. Today it's me, Simon, and we have a guest here, Nathan Roy, a standout member of the UK community, who has set up a lore compendium for Flesh and Blood. We're going to talk a bit more about it today, but first off, thank you very much, Nathan, for joining us today. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're
I've
more
been
than
listening
welcome.
to the pod for so long now, and I never thought I'd be on it, so it's all a bit surreal.
It's a funny one, isn't it? I don't think we, as Push the Point, ever really feel like we have a lot of people out there listening, and then every now and then people like you say, "I never expected to be on the podcast or an interview or a
Yeah,
doctor," and it's just really heartwarming. So thank you very much for joining us. Um, let's start from the very beginning, Nathan. When did you get into Flesh and Blood, or how and when did you get into Flesh and Blood?
yeah. So I got into Flesh and Blood August 2021, I think it was, just at the tail end of Monarch Limited. So essentially, when I was younger, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay.
Um, I loved it at the time. Um, I always wanted to get back into a TCG, but I was busy with uni or
Mm.
work or whatever it might be, and obviously there's affordability side of it. So I finally got to like that point where I was like, okay, I've got a bit of free time, got a bit of spare cash, let's take a look. And I watched some YouTube videos of what video is today. And I was like, what is this? Like
Good
this?
job you got out. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not the game that I sort of learned to play all those years ago. So yeah, I just started browsing on
Yeah.
TCGplayer.com, just trying to see like what other games are around. I saw things like Vanguard, and so you got the top three still, and all those things. And then I think it was, I'm sure I remember it as being like the fourth in the list.
Right.
I saw Flesh and Blood. I was like, huh, what's that? So I checked it out. Oh, this looks kind of cool. This looks kind of fun. I really like the artwork, and that sort of style. And at the time, I was living in Amsterdam.
Oh.
And so I just Googled, Flesh and Blood Amsterdam. It just so happened that there was an armory scene that had started up like either that month or very, very
Mm.
recently. So I went along, and I think I was like the fourth player to ever join
Oh
the
wow.
Amsterdam armory. Yeah, yeah. So it was quite interesting. So hey, Nino, if you're watching, he's the guy who set it up, and
Oh,
legend.
fantastic.
He grew it, and he put a post in the chat the other day. Had like over 80 players in that scene.
No way.
Players. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty big over there. So yeah, that's how I got into it, and I just instantly fell in love with the game. Won my first ever game on the Ira decks, so it's just
Very
like,
good.
okay,
Yeah.
well,
Hooked.
that's always a hook, isn't it? So um, yeah, just gone from there really. So I then moved back to the UK, to Weymouth, and I started a scene in Poole.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nice
Uh,
part of the world.
yeah, so I was TO there until March this year, so about a year. And then yeah, there's a good scene there. I think we had like 8 regulars,
Yeah.
and now I've just moved to Plymouth, where I'm part of the scene here now. So
Fantastic.
yeah, all going well.
So I
That's
mean,
sort of like
so we're talking really about summer 2021 when you got into it, and obviously you've mentioned Monarch Unlimited. Have you seen the announcements over the Pro Tour weekend? Have you seen that you're going to get a chance to draft Monarch competitively, like go back to your roots? How are you feeling
uh,
about that?
I have. Monarch is an interesting draft set, I
Yeah.
think, and it's one of those where I'm instantly trying to remember like what was good to draft in that set. But I think at the time, so long ago, I was so fresh to the game.
Yeah.
It's it's going to be like I'm coming back to it like
Yes.
completely fresh, which is the whole idea, right? So yeah, it's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to drafting again.
Fantastic. Yeah.
It's going to be good fun. Yeah.
Now, the real reason we've got you on, and it is always great to hear how people got into the game and why they got into the game. I think the points you've mentioned about the artwork and the gameplay are phenomenal. But you've now taken this down a slightly different path. You have gone deep into the lore of the world of
Yeah.
Wraith. Where did that start?
So it started as a personal project actually.
Yeah.
I was finding the LSS website quite difficult to find all of the lore.
Yeah.
I was kind of interested in it. I've never really been a lore person,
Mm.
but because I love the game so much, I was like, I really want to learn, who are these characters? Where do they come from? What are their stories? I was just finding it really difficult to find not just sort of like lore on specific heroes or parts of race, but also the actual continuity of the story as well. Just find it. So as a personal project, I decided, right, I'm going to start collecting all this stuff together. I'm going to build it as a website. I'm a programmer by trade.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'll put this together. And I thought, actually, other people might find this quite useful. So I saw some people asking about it. And so I emailed LSS and I said, oh, hey guys, I built this website. What do you think? Would you mind if I was to open source it and publish it for other people to read?
Mm.
And they were like, this is great. We wish our lore was this well sort of put together. Yeah, go for it. Please do. And so, with LSS's blessing, I sort of bought the domain and built a website and now I'm posting it. So that's kind of how it came to be. It's just a personal project and other people seem to like it. So happy days.
And so Legendary Stories was born.
It was born. Yeah, I don't know where the name came from. But it's pretty close to Legend Story Studios, I suppose.
I think it's fitting. It's different enough, obviously, that Legend Stories. I'm going to have to be careful now. Legend Story Studios were okay with you using the domain name, but like having used the website myself, that I think it's just incredibly detailed. Like as you said, if you go to Legend Story Studios website and you can find the lore there, so you can go to each hero. You can go to their hero page, their story page, but it's quite difficult to find how things interlink and find the connecting stories and follow the lore as it maybe was meant to be read or as it was written. And then you look at your website, for example, which is very clean, very crisp. You're able to use the menu to find almost any character, any part of the lore that you want to go through by region or by almost by any factor you can think of. It's incredible and it's such a good resource for people. My favourite bit though is something most people don't even realise is the flavour text.
Yeah. And shout out to Tyler and Philip. So they run Philip runs February.
Okay, yeah.
And then with Tyler, they build this data set for all of the cards they have picked. And in fact, this morning I got a message from Tyler saying, "Oh, I missed a flavor text on Margaret Beast extended art. It's only on the extended art, so I need to go back and add that one in."
Oh, really?
Yeah. So without their data set, the flavor text part of the website wouldn't exist. So shout out to those guys.
Well, and again, just a quick shout out to Fabry in general. It's such a great resource. I know there are a couple of different Fab database sites that people use, FabDB, Fabry. We've had FabDB on Push the Point before to talk about their site, and it's just great, as with you, Nathan, that we've got so many community members that are generous with their time, putting the work in to make these incredible tools. Just tell me a bit more about the process of making your website. Like, how easy or difficult was it to set everything up to get going?
So I have to be honest, it was a bit of a cop-out.
Was it?
Guys? Well, sort of. So I'm a programmer by trade, but I'm not actually a web developer.
Okay.
And so I use a tool called Book. And essentially, all you need to do is provide the content, and then just makes the website. So all of the sort of menu and all that kind of stuff is actually run by this tool or this program that I use.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a cop out, but I guess there's still a lot of time involved in it because I have to format everything and all that stuff. But so that's kind of how it works.
Yeah. What are some of your favourite features that people might not see immediately on arriving at their website? What would you encourage people to go and explore?
Yeah, so I think one of my favorite things to do is when something new comes out. Actually, I tweeted about this the other day. So they've spoiled Bologna, she called
Yes,
the
Archangel of
angel.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. So who is she? So I'll be honest, like I've read most of the lore, but
Yeah.
I don't have it all in my head yet. So I just went straight to the website, and there's a little magnifying glass at the top where you can search. So I just searched
Ah,
Bologna, and it comes up with everything that like everywhere where she sort of appears.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you find out she's like linked to Bolton, and she's actually the War Tune Herald.
Right.
So
She's in the artwork for Watching Herald.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's kind of handy. And then I've also asked people, people have asked me, can I print out all of the lore? And there is a little sort of print icon there, and it will keep everything one big go.
Oh wow.
So that's kind of handy if you ever want to print it out. Save the truth.
Save the truth. Don't print it out. Just keep it on your electronic devices. Amazing. So, as you say, you've read through most of the lore. There is a huge amount, and when I was scrolling through your website, some of the character names that pop up, I'm like, where did that appear? Like, how is that a character? And then you see it. You go back through the articles or the lore pieces, and you realise where they've come from. Do you have a particular favourite piece of lore or a favourite character from the lore?
My favourite piece of lore is a very recent one.
Okay.
So I was looking desperately for some kind of connection between Benji and Katsu and the Pits.
Yes.
Because right now, it's kind of like, why they have
Absolutely.
And there was a short story released for each of the Outsiders heroes that not many people are aware of. And one of them is obviously Benji. And it's basically, he's in the pits, walking through and just asks somebody for directions. And they kind of like, oh, you're not around here, are you? This sort of start kicks their ass. It's a really short story. It's actually on the website, under the short story section.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just really like that, just the idea of Benji just like...
And so you mentioned you started on the Ira starter decks. Do you still play Ninja? Is that part of the reason why you're liking Benji at the moment?
Yeah, so I played Ninja for a long time. I started on Ira, and obviously everybody started with this, right? And then I was on Katsu for a brief time before I switched to Reinhardt.
Okay.
And I tried for like a year to get Reinhardt to work, but we had Redline Dwyer, we had Prism, and Chain.
Yeah.
Now the Rangers have come in, and I'm just like... So then I played 5 Rages, and I basically won one. They're definitely my favourite heroes.
I think what you mentioned Reinhardt there. I feel sorry for Reinhardt. I think he's so middle of the road, and nothing has pushed him up and nothing has really pushed him down. He just sits in this void in the middle where he can get really good results against people, but he doesn't seem to make the top tables very often, because, as you said, there are always people that can either out aggro him or out control him, and he doesn't seem to have any really outstanding like archetypes that you can just use regularly at the moment. It's a real shame because he's I think the Savage Land set, whenever that rolls around, is going to be really interesting from a lore perspective, but also from a character development perspective. How much can you develop a savage from the Savage Lands or a brute from the Savage Lands?
I think they've got to be careful, right, in terms of balance. Actually, that's a really important word, balance, because I think like the whole lore is all to do with balance.
Okay.
So I've got a theory that Solana is basically a cult, and what I would love to see, right? So I would love to see Prism turn against Solana and end up helping out the Demonastery, bring down Solana and the Magisters, and then the sort of Solanians have to escape into the Savage Lands, and then we go into that set next, and then Reinhardt gets all of the speed cards. That would
it's interesting because I saw you post this on Twitter as a bit of a joke. Did you get much response from the community with that? Like, was there much support for that sort of theme?
Yeah, there's been a bit of back and forth between some people, but I don't know. I guess it's anybody's guess as to where LSS take it next, right? Um, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that's why I think it's all about this balance. So like with Reinhardt, they're going to really kind of balancing things and hero, and I think they do a really good job with all of the heroes balanced. But I think the sort of the lore in itself is all balanced. I don't think, even though we have this sort of light and shadow, I don't think that necessarily means good and evil. I think it's
Yeah,
sort of balanced. It's kind of like this yin yang kind of, right? And I think you see a lot of that with a lot of the lore. Even like Azalea, for example, sort of her lore, she's sort of she's taking on these contracts, and you can see her sort of inner struggle with what
yeah.
she wants to do when she has to sort of perform these tasks. And yeah, I think it's all to do with that. But it's really cool.
You've nailed it really. I like you. I've thought for some time that Solana is a bit of a cult, uh, or- somewhat religious in nature. Obviously, they follow a divine light, and they have their very strict views and structure and hierarchical systems within the city. They keep the peasants outside the walls and don't allow anyone but certain people in the city. But what you've said about balance across the whole game is really interesting, because you've got Solana and the Demonastery. You've got, although they're separated by distance, they're obviously opposed in light and shadow. You've got Metrics and the Pits, and Metrics is always obviously mechanologists, but is always depicted as very light and colourful, and the Pits is very dark and seedy and grimy.
Yeah,
What's and then, well, I guess you've got the Volcor and the Savage Lands, sort of fire and earth almost. There is a lot of balance between not only locations but also the feelings and the heroes that come from those locations, and I really enjoy what they're doing. It's almost like a serialized comic where we're getting drip fed this information. And James White, I don't know if you saw the Pro Tour dinner speech that James White gave, where he talks about this being Dusk Till Dawn, the upcoming set being the second in the trilogy of the War of the Monarch.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I don't think anyone had heard that yet. And it was this big, well, not big. It was an understated reveal of the way their inner workings, their planning is going for the lore. I know there are people out there clamoring for more hero lore, and one of my favourite pieces is the Viserai lore and the sort of corruption of this knight from the world of Wraith, and how he becomes a puppet of Lord Sutcliffe, and then obviously Lord Sutcliffe doesn't survive and gets swallowed up by the Demonastery almost, and I wonder where Viserai is going in his lore sort of thing. It leaves it so open ended.
I think that's one of the biggest sort of not frustrations, but sort of you get to the end of this lore, you just see this big to be continued.
Yeah,
It just got to the good bit.
and
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on that then? How do you feel with your? I'm going to call you a lore expert on Flesh and Blood now, because you've made the compendium, you've put it all together, you've read a huge amount. Like, how do you feel? How do you feel LSS is doing with their lore at the moment?
Yeah, so I think the stories that we've had so far have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I would love to see more. I know that James White's talked about hiring some fantasy writers to really flesh these things out. So I'm quite looking forward to that, particularly if we ever get a lore book two. And what I really like as well is when they give sort of members of the community like the tidbits. So there's a guy on Twitter and in the global Discord called Dead Summer, I think it's
Yes.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he always
All the way
gets,
from
like,
Australia.
Yeah, or New Zealand or something like that. Yeah, and he got given some additional tidbits on sort of like the codices, and he made this amazing video. Like he actually added his own lore to it, So technically, it's
Oh,
not canon, but it is based on what LSS said.
yeah.
And I loved it so much, I put it on the site. So yeah, like even if they can hire, some external people. I know
Mm.
where, for example, I'm not sure of his actual name, but Steelfur from the Discord.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Finbar.
he's yeah, Finbar. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, he's writing his own lore
Yeah.
based on Arian, and that's really cool. So even if they were to hire people from the community just to extend the lore, I think that's really cool because it is sort of being drip fed to us at the moment.
Yeah.
Just good to see more of it. But yeah, what we do have is high quality, so there's that trait.
I must
Don't
admit,
want it on.
one thing I've noticed from the very beginning, I think I got into the game summer 2020, so a little bit before you.
Yeah,
But the lore at the time was very sparse, and they had hero pages and not much more. And they've made a real effort to produce and release the sort of interconnecting lore, especially around Monarch and the War of the Monarch. I don't know how they're going to progress from here, but I feel like their writing styles and the number of people they've got in that team has really developed well, and they've moved in the right direction. Every time they release something, it shows another spark of something new, and I really enjoy that excitement. As impatient as I am, I think similar to you, I want it now. I want to read it all now, but the drip feeding of it seems to be working.
yeah, I think so.
What are you looking forward to coming up to Dusk Till Dawn? Obviously, it's an expansion set. They've just released all the information now. This being the second part of the War of the Monarch trilogy, obviously. What are you hoping to see? I know you've mentioned some conspiracy theories, but what are you hoping to see happen?
Yeah, so I do hope that Solana gets taken down. I just think that was so cool. Like just to see this sort of hugely successful, powerful city just all of a sudden crumple. That would be that would really set up like a huge amount of
Game changer.
Yeah, game changer, definitely. Nobody wants the good guys, right? And again, good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, who knows if they're good or not? They talk about it as if they have this divine power, but on the shadow side, I know the terminology they use is like freeing the world of Wraith of its like excess and opulence and decadence, and taking it back to a blank canvas almost, which is an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I also Prism. I hated Prism so much.
You hated playing against Prism, or you hate the lore around Prism?
No, I just hated playing against her. So I think for that reason, I also want to see Solana get taken down.
Yeah, I could say the same about Dorinthia. Prism I wasn't too bad on, but Dorinthia really plagued me. As a ninja player from very early on, Dorinthia was right up there with my frustrating matchups. Ira and Dorinthia in Blitz, and Katsu and Dorinthia in CC are really tricky, but fun, tricky matchups.
Yeah. But I think this is what makes the game so great, right? Because people really do find this connection to heroes, or sort of like, this dislike for certain heroes. And that extends, for me personally, into the lore. I'm sort of reading lore and I get into it. Yeah, really sort of get behind this character, and I really want this character to fail. So it kind of, the whole thing just connects so well.
Yeah. Have you had, speaking about how your views on heroes are shaped, have you had any heroes who you've really liked the opening themes for, and then when you've gone into the lore, you've thought, actually, that's not what I thought, and I'm not going to touch them with a barge pole, or vice versa?
Good question. I think because I like the lore so much, it's tricky. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. No, I don't think so.
I think the one that came to my no, that's absolutely a viable answer. The one that came to my mind was Leviathan, actually, and I thought the introduction to the story about this oppressed young lady searching for a way out and looking for a higher power almost, and then she finds Blasmafet and goes into the Nether Realm. Or I thought it was a really cool start to the story, and I just didn't click with the second half. It sort of put me off play, and I ended up going down chain for that route. Yeah. I think it's really interesting though, the power of words and how the stories themselves put you onto a hero or take you off of a hero. I think it's really interesting how we identify with those.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, even like, I think that's part of why I enjoy Ryan so much. I mean, I love sort of orcs and all those kind of things. So he was sort of one of the first heroes that I was sort of drawn to. But then even like his story, sort of being born into this savage world, the savage lands, and having to sort of really struggle and battle, fight, grim and bear it, grit his teeth through it, and become the prime sort of the alpha predator of the savage lands. I love that sort of story arc. I think one that I really enjoyed was by Dromai.
Yes.
And the reason why is because I'm not saying that it's, it certainly takes inspiration from The Last Airbender, right? Avatar: Last Airbender. And I love that show.
Okay.
And it clearly, like, there are clear sort of similarities between them. And so I just instantly, like, clicked with that role. And, yeah, that's really
good.
Those dragons. These are black dragons.
Exactly. I mean, I obviously identified more with the ninja side of things on the story, but I think having those signals and the sort of the brother sister opposite ends of the spectrum separated and brought together and then separated again, I thought that was a really interesting way to take it, and bringing family dynamics into the game is an interesting slant on things as well. Just before we move on, do you have any sort of lesser characters that you would like fleshed out a bit more? Anything that takes your fancy to develop a bit more down that side?
So I mean, I guess the first one would be Rhino, right? But no, one that I was really disappointed with is Yoji.
Okay, yeah.
Just for the simple fact that he's the royal guardian.
Yeah,
he's there to protect the emperor. Where was he?
Yeah.
Where were you, Yoji?
Why was he? Yeah, why was he bigged up and then he wasn't even there?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's because he's sort of like a minor character, because he's just a young hero, right? Maybe, and then hopefully that will get fleshed out a little bit down the line. I kind of like to see that get fleshed out a bit, just to sort of see where he goes now and what happens now that the emperor is dead. What purpose does he serve? Who is going to take over Volkor? I mean, there's sort of like ties between Dromai, obviously, and Kasai and Volkor. So Kasai is a really interesting one because she is the daughter of a general, and she was sort of like banished, right? And this whole sort of the card themes behind it, like blood on her hands, like, what's she fighting for? What's she trying to get back? What's going on there? So that would be really interesting to see down the line as well. To decide. I don't think I've seen any other hero that people have clamored for an adult version of Kasai.
Yes.
Everybody wants an adult Kasai. I think it even got asked Pro Tour, maybe Pro Tour 2, Pro Tour 3.
Yeah.
James Ryder, Spaceline. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, Kasai was the one I was sort of angling at because the theming of the character works so well. As you mentioned, she's been banished. She's now a mercenary, or she's in with a mercenary troop. And the whole theme about her attacks costing less, the way she builds up copper as a resource that she uses, fits in with her mercenary theming. And I thought, like many, when they came to Volkor, there was going to be some lore in there about Kasai and how she gets her revenge on the group that murdered her general father, but nothing yet. So maybe it's going to come sort of down the line in the third part of the trilogy of the War of the Monarch, where maybe she's going to appear somewhere else. But I think it is frustrating when they leave these characters at dead ends, but at the same time it just makes you want more. They know their stuff, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. That's it, right? I mean, you basically have to stick along with the game because you want to find out what
exactly. Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
So, with all that said, then obviously we're not going to go through the whole lore of the world of Wraith and Flesh and Blood because there's just so much to cover. But
yeah,
where is this project going for you? You said it started as a personal project, legendary stories. You've got to a point where the website has become so well used that you're having to look at new options for growth and server provision and like what's the plan for you right now?
Yeah, so I think pretty much all of the lore that I know about is in there.
Okay.
So now it's more sort of keeping on top of it when the lore is released, tidying things up, so making sure that all the links back to the original LSS website, all of the sort of attribution is there. So if you know, an author or the artist, I want to make sure they are all sort of recognised within the site. So I'm working back through all of that to get all those things done. But I've started a data project of my own.
Okay.
So, for example, if you want to know where Alton is mentioned, the idea is that I have this table and you know it's mentioned here. So there's that, and there's also the same for the locations. So I'm trying to collect all of the locations with the Wraith. And quite a few people have reached out to me about this, and they're quite excited about it because they're starting to sell things like D&D nights based in the world of Wraith.
Oh.
And they said that that's really useful for them. I also want to do something similar, which is based on card art. So if there are things that we can ascertain about the lore based on the art cards, and there are certain things that we can actually find out. For example, you know that elves exist. They're in Wild Riot, for example.
Yeah.
So things like that. So I'm trying to sort of collect all of that together. And then I do also have another side project which I may start on soon.
Okay. Do you want to mention that, or do you want to keep it?
So this is a push the point exclusive.
Oh, give it to me.
I've never actually told anybody about this. So I want to make a website for the rules and sort of how the rules change throughout the game's history. And I want to be able to track those and also highlight key pieces of the rules that commonly come up. So, for example, thinking off the top of my head, how you can gain an action point using spellbound creatures, things like that. Sort of like hard to understand interactions. So I don't think there's really anything out there that sort of describes that, but we'll see how much free time.
Well, I was going to say that sounds like a big project. I think just on that note, obviously the comprehensive rules have changed significantly since we started playing the game. And yes, I think a lot of the time people use the refrain, reading the card explains the card. I mean, in some cases that's true. If you don't get what you need from reading the card, then the release notes for each set obviously have a lot of information on card interactions, and that is also a good place to check. But your idea of again making another compendium of all of that information and how things have progressed seems like an absolute no-brainer in terms of usefulness for the community. So thank you for bringing up the idea.
Of course.
Do you think that would include things potentially like judge reports from events? Like, is that something that you might be able to get access to and include in the site?
I guess so, yeah. I know there is a judge website already, and that has quite a lot of stuff on this kind of thing. So it's kind of been like supplementary to the judge website, I guess. I've spoken to Jotrick.
Yes, of Talishar fame.
Yes, indeed. He's contributed to the lore website as well.
Amazing.
Various other software pieces that people are working on. So yeah, he sort of said, okay, yeah, I think it's got some legs. We do cover a lot of judge blog, but I'll be interested to see what we do. So yeah, I think it will be supplementary, but not try to compare.
It sounds like you've got your hands full. I know you mentioned a couple of big life events coming up this year as well, so congratulations and good luck for those.
Thank you.
do you want to do you want to tell us how can we help? Like, what can we do to help you make these projects be the best they can be?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the first thing is if anybody knows any mistakes and knows anything that's missing, it's all posted on a website called github.com. You can submit an issue there, or you can personally send me a tweet. I'm at Jump for Roy. There's obviously the financial side of things at the moment. It's okay, but I have recently switched over to AWS to host all the images, and I hit my free allocation within a month.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty popular, it seems.
Yeah.
So at some point I'm going to start getting charged for that, I guess. So if anybody wants to donate, there's a little button site. I don't ask for much, just anything spare help towards the cost of running the site. But otherwise, it's I like to say it's a personal project.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to pay for that. So. But yeah,
well, it's always nice to know
is,
that the community supports you as well.
Yeah. The main thing for me is if you see anything that's missing or anything that's wrong, that's the main thing. Please let me know, because I'd love it to be the complete. So just that.
Fantastic. And just before we wrap up, you've mentioned a couple of names as we've gone through. Any other shout outs, any other people that you want to highlight in the community for any reason?
I guess just my local playgroups.
Yeah.
So hey to the Amsterdam scene, the pool scene, and the Plymouth scene. Hey guys.
Amazing. And again, those local scenes where you start out, and as you said, you started your own in pool. There's almost an element of like collectivity and brothership there, or sistership if you're then you want to see them do well, and you want to see your scene expand. Like the joy on your face when you mentioned how big the Amsterdam scene had got, for example, was just it's really amazing to hear. And I'm really glad that everywhere you go seems to turn to gold at the moment, Nathan. So keep going. I hope we get to play again at a big event this year. Just thank you so much for your time and for taking us through the website and your perspective on the lore today.
No, thank you so much, Daniel.
Okay, thanks guys, and we will speak to you soon.